All right. What's up, everybody? It's episode 4 of the Overcut podcast, where we're going to be reviewing I don't want to say it wrong. I'm just call it the Baku Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Good job.
Save myself the embarrassment because I was working on trying to how to say it for like all day today. And I was just like, nope. I was like, nope, because I'm going to do it and then I'm going to mess it up when it's time to actually say it. And it's going to, no. Just wouldn't be good for anybody. But anyways, same usual suspects here. You got me, LG, you got Joe.
What's going on?
And you got Mike. So I guess had a few new things happen this past race weekend. Had a new format to the sprint, the very exciting sprint format that we've seen in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, really forcing it on us.
Yeah, I feel like it's just not a good product. But they've made drastic changes to it this weekend. I guess we should go over what the changes are. Mm-hmm. So what they ended up doing is previously they would have the sprint race. They would have a sprint race on Saturday, which would decide the starting grid for Sunday's main race, is what they were calling it. But this year they completely scratched that. So now qualifying for the main race happens on a Friday after one practice session for the teams. You can't make any changes to the car after that. So you get 60 minutes to set your car up for the entire weekend. I mean, I feel like that right off the bat, that's one thing that has to change.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's tough. I mean, you got one practice to get the whole weekend right.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's not even how it used to be, an hour and a half of practice. It's just 60 minutes.
Yep.
So then Saturday is a whole. So that in turn makes Saturday a whole event into itself. You got separate qualifying session just for the sprint race, and then you got the sprint race after that, and not much practice for the teams this weekend. It's just.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I think if I had a weekend where I had no plans, I probably would have enjoyed it more. They're just trying to make Saturday an actual day of events where people will actually watch. And because nobody wants to keep watching practice after practice after practice and then qualifying. So I can understand the draw, but if you got plans for the weekend, it's too much to keep up with.
Yeah, I have agree with just like it's too much now, which I like the idea of a sprint because it's a separate little race, but it's just too much F1 now. How can you even keep up? When before it was a couple practices, you can see the highlights, you can move on, you pay attention to qualifying on Saturday and then the race. But I was at home, so luckily I did watch it all. But I get it, Mike. Like if you got something going on, you miss the entire weekend.
Yeah,
the entire important stuff instead of just like 1 hour on Saturday, the qualifying you missed. Now you missed 3 hours of important stuff, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, get ready for it because you got 5 more of them coming this season.
Yeah. Well, do y'all think that they're going to make the sprint like its own race? So it's going to be the points are only going to be allocated for that, or do you think that we're going to keep getting it where it can potentially be alter the outcome of the championship?
Well, I saw a report that Christian said that they're still gonna make some tweaks to the sprint going forward. That's why that's why they made the changes to the first one, so they could look at it, and then they're going to come up with some changes for by the time the next one happens at the end of June. That's what Christian said on Sunday.
I hate that even more. Like, so now they should have this stuff before the season starts. Because if these are going to be part of like the world championship points, you can't keep changing things in the middle of the season. So if they're going to keep changing before each sprint race, I think that's the worst version of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty much, because I think they didn't even finalize what was happening until, was it like last Sunday, I think?
Yeah.
So the teams had no idea what they were even walking into
Mhm.
until last week.
Yeah, I think when you say it's going to be ongoing and you're going to keep making changes like going forward, that just means you don't have a plan.
Yeah,
You don't know what you
exactly.
want to do.
I don't really know what I'm doing, so
Yeah,
I'll let
you don't
know.
know what you want to do. That's what
Yeah.
that's what happens when you say, "Oh yeah, we're going to do it now," and just have it. It's going to evolve by the time you see it again.
Yeah,
Well, it's going to have to. It's going to have to, because you think, man, these cars are, I mean, like, look at the damage behind you. That costs money. Teams got to replace parts. That's going to be a issue with the salary cap.
Well, you tell George stop running into people.
Hey, man. We're
he
racing.
had the space,
We're racing.
All right?
We're racing.
Exactly.
So I think a lot of changes has to be made for the teams to want to continue to be in it. Because I wonder if teams are going to start kind of opting out, really not putting any effort into it and not really performing in it, because it doesn't matter for your placing in the actual race. It's his own race by itself. So if you're like, well, if the points aren't going to count, or we're like Red Bull and you're ahead, why keep putting the damage on the car if you don't have to?
Because you want the points.
Yeah, well, that's actually why I think they're never going to do a separate sprint championship. They talked about that, like the sprint race has its own sprint champion. It's not part of this. They can't do that because then teams will just not even pay attention to it and just won't even try.
True.
Yeah, because they're gonna want the points. Because I mean, they're giving points out to up to what, 8th place?
Yes, 8 points. So yeah, through 1 through 8.
Yeah. Like I'm sure, because even if you're getting those 1 or 2 points in those last 2 spots, I'm sure those teams not gonna give those points up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I liked it a couple years ago. For the people who haven't been watching very much, in 2021 they had 3 sprint races. It wasn't exactly the same format as what we did this weekend. Then last year, same thing, 3 sprint races, differentish format. Like what Lonnie said. So I liked it because if you guys remember, those were races we had crashes during the race. It was like people learned about what to do during the sprint race. So then there was something cool that happened in the race. I like it because of that, but I don't know if I need it 6 times or whatever they decide to do, 10 times, 20 times a season. So I don't really know the answer, but I don't think it needs to be every week.
Yeah. I didn't even know there were going to be 6 sprints this year. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think the sprint's going to get any better until they go the F2 route, like I've said before. But the teams are going to complain. They're never going to let it happen.
So what is the F2 route? Let's explain.
So the F2 route is you have a qualifying, and the guy who the pole winner gets a point, but in the sprint race they reverse the top 10. So the guy who starts on the pole starts the sprint race from 10th, and then the second starts from 9th, and that's how it is. But they also hand points out for the sprint.
Okay.
So I mean, that way you should get some overtakes. You should get some kind of excitement having the fastest cars start from 10th and so forth. But they said something about the teams or saying how unsafe it was to have the fast cars coming from back that far. Like,
so they don't want overtakes, is what they're saying.
No, they just don't. No, it's just like Christian doesn't want to get the pole and start from 10th.
Yeah. Well, yeah, from a Red Bull perspective, that's a horrible idea.
It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with safety. It's just he doesn't want to start from 10th and maybe not pass 9 cars before the sprint is over. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, until they go that route, then I mean the sprint's going to be exactly how the sprint's has been.
Well, it seems like your guy might have got it down.
Who?
Charles.
Yeah.
Qualifying, yeah.
We got 1 lap speed.
Mm-hmm. Well, Charles does. Carlos, I don't know what he's doing.
Charles
failing.
does.
He's failing.
Dude, I'm worried about Carlos. Like, I know that this weekend, technically, with no practice, well, the one practice, like maybe he just got the setup wrong or whatever it is, but I'm officially worried.
I'm not.
You already knew. That's why.
I've been telling y'all, Carlos is nowhere as good as Charles. But I don't know. But so I guess we could talk about the sprint. So of course, Charles started on pole for the sprint. He had Sergio in second and Max in third. So Max was behind 2 cars in qualifying. I'm sure he was thrilled about that. But so I don't have to go through all of this. So the sprint starts early on in the sprint. Charles has the lead for what? Until the DRS.
Yep.
Till the DRS opens. Till the DRS time.
Yeah.
And then I figured that was going to happen. I don't think Ferrari thought that they would win that sprint or anything like that. I think that they were just looking to finish behind the Red Bull.
Mm-hmm.
So Sergio takes the lead like soon as the DRS opens. And for a minute, Charles was able to stay in that
in DRS
range on Sergio to keep Max at bay for a little bit. But then
he actually had a good race. It was good. That was a good qualifying. Sprint race.
He looked good, and then he eventually lost that DRS, and that was kind of it. I mean, the sprint was only 17 laps, so
it's quick, yeah. Well, because Max had the George thing going on, and then he passed George no matter what, and then of course he got Charles.
That was it was what is it? Was Max trying to pass George at that time, or was George trying to get back by Max?
When they wrecked, or when he had the touch?
Yeah, when George hit him.
So George was going the inside, so he had position, but Max actually had the I think he was in third at the time.
Yeah.
So Max was ahead of him, but George came and had him beat, had a better line, and Max didn't like it.
George was fighting him hard, but yeah, George definitely hit him. But
Matt, give him some space, Max. It's your fault.
Yeah, but I like how Max always says that nobody else gives space but him. Like, come on,
called him Princess George.
So yeah, George puts a hole in the side of Max's car. I was wondering the whole time why Max wasn't able to pass Charles, and then at the end of the race, Max parks the car. The cameraman goes right up to it. There's a big gash in the side of it. I'm like, well, that explains that.
Yep.
Yeah, and that new side pod didn't do so hot.
Yeah. But it didn't look to me like he even hit him hard enough to cause that much damage. Like to put a hole in there that side. Yeah. But who knows?
So who is at fault there? I know there's differing views. What do you guys say about George or
No, come
Max?
on, man. George had position.
Let's break it down, Lonnie.
George had position. He had the favorable line.
You don't have position just because you're on the inside.
Yeah, he was behind. Line. George was behind officially.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you don't have
concede it. You got to concede that,
you're on the inside.
You got to concede that.
I understand what you're saying, Mike. I do, like, if you don't want to get hit, you concede, but also Max is like, well, I'm in front, so I'm going to stay here until I get hit, which is a Max thing, obviously.
Yeah, George just tried to put him. He just tried to squeeze him on the outside, and he just misjudged it. That's all it is. It's his mistake. You fucked up.
No, I'm not.
You see after, obviously, when they were jawing at each other, George was like, "Oh, my tires were cold, and I was locking up." And Max is like, "Everyone's locking up."
That's how you know whose fault it was when somebody says, "Oh, my tires were cold. It was hard. There was no grip out there." Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but any idea how penalties work in the sprint? Is it just like the normal race? Because obviously nothing came of their crash at all. It just was okay. Continue on. Are there
That's the thing.
regular
I don't know if
penalties?
they really. I don't know if they really touched on how that would even work. I'm glad.
Okay.
I'm guessing the FIA was glad that it didn't come.
The fact that Max did get past him, yeah.
Well, because it was supposed to be, I don't think anything in the race supposed to affect the actual big race.
Yeah, I think that's how it is.
Right.
I think that's what they said. We're saying is that the sprint is not going to affect Sunday at
Okay.
all.
So maybe it's going to be fines
because
maybe?
they thought that would make the teams want to race more.
I can agree, but so what? You can't just like be able to do whatever you want in the sprint. I guess they give like
They'll probably roll over
5-second
to the next
penalties,
week.
10-second penalties for that sprint race. So maybe they give Georgia 5 second and he continues on. Maybe he beats Max, but he has the 5-second penalty at the end of it.
Huh. Yeah, that's
'Cause
probably
that would affect him in the sprint race, and it wouldn't affect him in the race like they want to do. Maybe.
yeah, because I don't think
they
you want
probably
to
do that, but they probably announce it on like Monday.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed the sprint races, but not. There's nothing groundbreaking about it. Like, let's be real. It's just a shorter version. We love pit stops, so a sprint race doesn't do it for us there. But I like Sergio winning, and then I like a little bit of the George and Max. So that's great, but do we need it all the time? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, 6 out of 22 races this year. So I mean,
23.
so expect more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think you can really increase it because you would have to. You definitely got to do it at tracks that people can overtake at. Because there's no point in doing a sprint like I wouldn't do a sprint at like Monaco.
Yeah.
Oh God. Let's go ahead and make some plans that weekend, Mike.
This thing we're gonna have to review that race.
Yeah.
We'll just send out a one Instagram post. See y'all next week.
Yeah.
The guy who started on pole won.
And everybody else was in order. That's exactly how it was.
Mm-hmm. It's one pit stop, put a hard tire on, finish the race.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's been kind of the thing here now, even with these races we've had. I guess with none of these tracks being crazy with tire wear, it's been one. I'm excited to see these tracks coming up with multiple pit stops so we can see more strategy.
Yeah. It's because the fake tracks aren't exciting.
Oh man, here's the purist.
Well, I'm worried about Miami. I know Lonnie is. Miami's not going to be good.
Sucks so bad. God,
this is going to be a bad weekend coming up too.
It's such a bad track, man. God, it sucks. It stinks.
Well, hopefully Sergio wins.
I'm sure Checo was going to appreciate it. He likes these.
Yeah.
It's in a parking lot. So, I'm not even going to talk about it.
We'll see y'all next week about that one.
Yeah. So your points finishers for the sprint ended up being Sergio 1, Charles in second, about 4.5 seconds behind Checo. Then you had Max finishing on the podium, I guess you could call it, for a sprint race. You could call it, if you want to call it a podium.
Yeah.
Then you had fourth, you had George, and rounding out the top 5, you had Carlos. George and Carlos were kind of they fell a little bit behind on those top 3. It was a pretty decent gap in between those top 3 and the rest of those cars.
Like 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then you had the rest of the points ended up being Fernando 6th, Lewis in 7th, and Lance in 8th. Not much
with no DRS for Lance.
Yeah,
well, halfway through.
Again, the top 4 teams probably stayed in those top 8 spots. It looks like so. Points were pretty straightforward right there for the sprint. So then that leads us to the main race on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So Charles starts on the pole after Friday qualifying. He got the pole for both he got pole on Friday and Saturday. So that said that Charles is really fast over one lap.
He loves Baku apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Charles is really fast over one lap, but I don't think the car just can't hold it.
Mm-hmm.
But Charles is really fast, but Charles this also how Charles gets in trouble sometimes. He just
Overdoes it.
yeah.
Too aggressive. He'll be leading a race and crash.
Yeah, he's so aggressive.
Saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Hulk. So at that, so the beginning of the race starts. Hulkenberg and Ocon start from the pit lane. That'll be a story that'll be a story coming up
On lap
later
51. Yep.
on how that on the significance of them starting from pit lane. So some Baku news. They said Baku has been renewed all the way through the 2026 season. So you're gonna see
Love it.
you're gonna see more of Baku for the next coming seasons.
The
Good
longest straight I've ever seen.
Yeah. So what was it? So George missed out on Q3 first of all. He had to start from 11th. I'm not sure what happened to him and was he was just slow in Q2, right?
I guess.
That's there was nothing that I heard about car issues. Just he was just slow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the race starts. Charles holds the lead through lap one. He did lead a lap. So
one lap.
he led a lap. And the thing that stood out for me is like how quickly. So Carlos was running fourth, and how quickly the top three cars just dropped Carlos. Like when DRS came out and Carlos was, they dropped him. He was way back.
Do we just think he's just lost confidence?
I don't know.
We don't know.
I mean,
I think it could be the thing where I guess the condensed practices could have affected Carlos. It seems like something that would affect him. He may need more time to get used to the car for that weekend, and then I think that's one of the things that could be one of the downsides of only having one practice and then not being able to change the car after that.
Right. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
If you don't get it right in those 60 minutes, then you're stuck driving a car you don't like all weekend.
Well, you think it's just maybe the car set up more for Charles more than Carlos?
They could be. I mean, but that would be a design thing probably.
Yeah,
if it was like that. But I'm sure they could change the setup to fit Carlos. But I mean, they probably didn't have time for Carlos to give them enough feedback to say what's wrong, and then for them to have time to fix it.
Yeah.
So so is it then Max that DRS opens up. Max uses it on the front straight and passes Charles like he's sitting in quicksand.
Like he's not even there, man. Ooh, that camera angle was tough to watch too.
Yeah, and then Max quickly drops Charles from DRS range, pretty quick, and then that leaves Charles to fall victim to Sergio because he has no DRS to defend Sergio now. So Sergio does the same thing that Max does, although his pass was a little bit more. He had to work for it a little bit more than Max did, but it was still pretty straightforward.
There's no fighting it off.
No. There was no fighting that. No. It was no fighting the Red Bulls on that front straightaway when they had, especially when they had DRS. Mm-hmm. It was just a no contest.
Was like you said about Saturday as well. Like he knew his fight wasn't with the Red Bulls anyway, so it wasn't that demoralizing to watch them pass him like that. He just wanted to make sure he finished third, essentially.
Yeah.
There was no point. His job was to finish in front of everybody else that weekend. So so now it's just Red Bull 1-2 early on, lap 6 at when Sergio makes a pass, and then Sergio starts cutting into Max's lead. And then was it Max? He's only like 1.3 seconds behind Max. He's starting to get into he actually got into DRS range.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when was it so we had on lap 11. After that, DeVries brings up the safety car, which brings in the first bit of drama for the weekend.
Well, remember,
The Red
DeVries
Bull
pulls in like that, and there's no safety car yet. It's just that DeVries is pulled in weirdly, and that's where things get weird.
Yeah, so so what happens is DeVries pulls over. I think Red Bull thinks the safety car is coming out. They got Max on the front stretch, so like, let's pit Max now before safety. Well, then the safety car will come out probably when he's in the pits, and he'll get a free pit stop. But it doesn't happen
until the next lap.
It doesn't happen until the next lap. So Max doesn't benefit from the safety car this time
for the first time ever.
But guess who does?
Yeah,
good old Checo.
And then Max says after the race he wants Red Bull to review the strategy of how they do things when safety cars come out.
I will say the first couple things he said, it was nice enough. Like, oh yeah, we got unlucky. I saw Christian said, oh, Checo got lucky with it. And I hate that so much. But I thought Max was at least fair with his remarks before he said, like, we need to review it. He was okay about what really happened.
Everything Christian says is to not make Max upset.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
So do we think that Checo cannot pass Max on track? Because that's what it seems like they feel, that if everything worked out and it's the way they want it, Max will always be in the lead and Checo could never outrace him for the win. And I think that's what they want to continue, because they don't want it to be a strategy issue, because then it becomes Max versus Checo, and now Checo is on Max's tail for the championship.
Are you saying you think Red Bull doesn't want Perez to pass Max, or you think that Perez
I don't think they think
doesn't have the ability to do it?
Yeah, that's what I think. And I think that's why, as long as Max has the favorable I guess schedule, then it works out for him. But I don't think they feel like Perez can beat him on track.
Is Mike saying there's some controversy at Red Bull?
I mean, I'm rocking with Perez. I'm rocking with my guy. If I got to root for anybody on Red Bull, it's going to be him. It's going to be him. So I feel like he's going to get the tough schedule, because they don't want to see him win. So if they I don't think you're ever going to see them really race.
I think it's going to be inevitable. It's going to have to happen at some point. Because if you saw Checo say the other day, he thinks he can win the championship. So
let's go.
Yeah,
I think if it's early enough in races, like we saw a couple years ago, they're always going to like choose opposite strategies for the two drivers. But if it's late enough in a race where they can't do that, that's when Sergio actually has a shot. So we just have to hope for that to happen.
For our racing season, that's for something exciting for the championship. There's great excitement in the middle of the field, but at the top, if Checo doesn't do this, then it's not fun to watch at the top at all.
Hey, at least it's not a runaway yet, which I'm kind of surprised about, but still I'm happy, because apparently if he wins with the fastest lap next week, he'll be up by 3 or 4 points. Like he can take the lead in the championship next week.
He can take the lead next week. But I honestly think some of that part of them even pitting Max was because they didn't want Checo to pass.
Oh,
I don't think that there were I know some people just said it was a bad break with the safety car and all that. I think they didn't want they didn't want this.
Bad
They
look.
didn't want Checo to pass Max, so they pitted him because they saw that he was catching them. And right when Sergio had got into that DRS range like the lap before, he was like right up. He was getting like right up on Max. And
So
the
you're
next
saying
thing
the
you
safety
know,
car saved Max?
so then the next thing you know is Max pit. They pit Max.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people about he wasn't the only person that got screwed on that safety car either. Lewis got screwed on the safety car too because
He pitted the lap
he
before.
pitted the lap before Max.
Yep.
Because he said the mediums were trash. They only went 10 laps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
tires in general was bad this week.
Yeah, then I don't know why Mercedes decided to pit him the way that they did because they pitted him and he came out in 12th, like right in the middle of like a pack of cars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, really, you could have told him to stay out for a little bit longer to give him at least clear track when he pitted it. But I mean, the safety car kind of negated that, which I mean, probably, but now that you think about it, might have been a good thing for him because if he would have had to go through all those cars just like while the race was running, he would have lost a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But you're right. Like they still, whether the safety car was there or not, Mercedes made a bad call because they just put him in the middle of that DRS train. Like, so really we should be focusing on the fact that they did that so early and they ruined that for him.
Yep. So he started. So after the safety car period, he started in 10th. He started in 10th after the safety car period. So in the top 5 after the safety car period was Checo first, Charles second, Max dropped down to 3rd. This is how we say Max didn't benefit from the safety car. He only goes from 1st to 3rd. And Carlos and then Fernando was the top 5. So the race gets started again. I think Charles tried to defend a little bit too much on that restart, and he kind of compromised himself on coming out of that second turn, and Max just went by him right there on the first lap of the restart.
Yeah, I mean, like we had said before, he's not racing Red Bull. He's racing the rest of the field.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what it is for everybody. Like everybody's racing for 3rd place.
Yeah.
I will say about Max taking him like that. Max is uncharacteristically really good at that restart, the yellow flag restart. So you could also just give Max some credit that he's really good at that and caught at the right time and beat him out. I mean, that's very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And right around that time, this Alonso has what I thought was the pass of the race on the catching Carlos napping right there and shooting right up the inside of him and going by. There's no way Carlos was expecting that. And then by the time he goes to turn in, Fernando's right there, and it's just like, oh, it's yours.
That's exactly what Max should have did during the sprint race, but you know.
No, I want this to be more of a Carlos hate session. Like that's plays into what I'm saying. Like I'm a little worried about Carlos himself. Like he
Carlos
should be better than
let that happen.
No, he should not. He should be a little more aware.
I don't know, but then Carlos ends up finishing like 25 seconds behind Fernando. So I don't know what else he was going to do. It was just been delaying the inevitable.
Yeah.
So the race goes on, and that middle stage of the race is it
was boring.
Kind of dragging. The Red Bulls are so much faster than everybody else. And like through that middle stage of the race, they were a full second faster than the field.
Per lap though, right?
Yeah, per lap. Yeah. They were pulling out, they were fast a full second, both cars.
That's insane, man. That is insane. But they got it right. Red Bull got it right. These new regulations, they have smoked this and
yep. I mean, it's the same thing people were saying about Mercedes with the last car. So
yeah, with the upgrades, it seems like
just happens.
Yeah, nobody has touched it yet, or even made it seem like they've got it close to being dialed in like Red Bull does.
Yeah. You know who else didn't have a really, I guess, really that good of a day was Stroll. Stroll, I think he got a little bit of that pressure of Lewis behind him, ran off track, and
Yeah.
then Lewis got him on the front stretch.
But
Mhm.
I see Fernando seems like he's really like Stroll's dad out there. He's out there giving pointers, telling the team what Stroll can do for break points. Like it's not like he doesn't have encouragement on his team. So I think he'll
So
be all right.
weird.
He'll
It's
be all
it's
right.
it's so dominant almost. It's like, hey, as you said, I'm your dad. Like, let me tell you how to race this track. Like, if I
Yeah.
was Stroll, I'd be so unhappy about hearing that stuff.
I mean,
It's like Kyrie. It's like when they talk to Kyrie about LeBron. So do you
Yeah.
see him as like a father figure? Like,
hey,
like
Kyrie said,
no, I have a
I have
dad.
my father. My dad's around.
It's like I have a
Actually,
dad.
my dad's your boss.
But yeah, so yeah. And then another thing is like Fernando, because it works on your car doesn't mean it's gonna work for Lance.
But it seems like the Aston Martin has pace. Like Stroll has done. I mean, he's finished in the points every race, I believe, right?
I think so.
I believe he's finished in the points every week.
Shouldn't
Even with
have
the
last race.
you say he shouldn't have.
Shouldn't have in
Oh
Australia.
yeah, but you know,
Right.
That's
Neither
a
one
whole
of them
nother
should.
thing. Yeah, we're not
yeah.
getting back on that again.
Talk to the FIA about that.
Neither one of them should have scored points last race.
Nope.
But
Hulkenberg podium. It counts.
but yeah, speaking of Hulkenberg, this is around that middle time of the race. That's when him and Ocon are running like 9th and 10th after starting from the pit lane,
Yeah.
just like holding everyone up.
Yeah, because I think both of them started off on the hards,
Yeah,
and so they lasted pretty much. I
50
mean,
laps.
yeah,
so they they didn't pit. They didn't pit during the safety car. So of course they jump everybody who pits. So they're sitting back there in the two final points positions, just holding the entire field up.
hostage,
Yeah, just like holding
hostage
all those
Fingers
situation.
crossed for a red flag or something weird.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think they were gambling on that red flag, and then all the cars pitting, and they would somehow be able to stay in those point positions. But
I mean, I give them credit for trying strategy wise. You got to give it a shot. When you're in the back of the field, you have to do something different than everybody else, and it,
yeah,
it didn't work out, but you tried.
especially starting from the pit lane.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got no problem with it. And especially the Haas, like he's not expecting to be in the points in this race, so might as well. The Alpine itself, obviously you think you can be in the top 10, but like Lonnie said, like starting from the pit lane, like you got to try something random.
Yeah,
well, Alpine has had a bad season. Like they're not looking too hot, man. They're
I just
underperforming.
Gasly just has the worst luck apparently, so I guess that's just going to keep happening every week. And
Yeah.
then Ocon things.
yeah.
I got nothing. Of course, Ocon's the one who has all the
Ocon's a race
penalties
winner, man.
in
You
week
gotta.
one, and then he's got this thing behind Mike's head there that happens to him too. Like, what is going on?
Yeah,
Ocon's a race winner, man. You gotta talk nice about him.
he did get the dub. He did get a dub.
Because of Lewis.
I'm trying to think.
so around this time, mid part of the race, this is when Checo really starts to put a little gap on Max, and he breaks the DRS zone from Max. Max doesn't have DRS, and it's like it seemed like Checo was able to keep Max for a long time, keep him around that 2.5, 3 second range where Max couldn't. Like it seemed like Max would catch him about, bring it down to like close to 2 seconds, and then Sergio would stretch it back out. It seemed like Checo really just kept him at arm's length the entire race.
He did a great job managing that at the front. He did. I can't I don't have anything bad to say about Checo. Well, I won't going to say anything bad about him anyway, as long as he beats Max. But
That's right.
but he kept Max at bay, and I don't know what Mac's excuse this week is other than the safety car, but
Oh, he had some.
I didn't hear any
Well,
vibration issues. I didn't hear about the engine cutting. I didn't hear any of that during the race. So I don't want to hear that now.
That's what I'm saying. No matter what Max says, we know he was pushing. We know he was trying to get the win, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't cut deep enough to get anywhere near DRS. So it was Checo's week. He nailed it.
And both of those cars were going. Like I don't think they held back at all yesterday. I mean, Sunday. There was no holding back. They were going for it because Checo knew he was racing for a championship. Like he sees himself as having an opportunity, and there's no way he's just going to let that go.
Yep. And so if you saw any of like Max's, like that he said after the race, he said he didn't quite figure the car out until about 10 laps to go, and by that he started to get in his groove, but by that time it was too late. So he picked the time when they showed him being a little bit quicker than Checo is when he started to figure the car out. Then
okay,
it's like, all right, Max, okay.
Let me just have a big yawn for Max. Yeah,
it's like, dude, you just got beat all weekend. That's all it is. It's just like, that's all it is. Checo just beat you all weekend. It's fine.
And I mean, let's be honest, man. Checo has become the street race king. You know, he's out here.
Yeah, thank God for Checo. Thank God for Checo. No telling what this season would be if Gasly or Albon was still in that car.
Hey, stop that. I love Albon.
So Checo pretty much just holds Max at bay for the rest of the race. Goes on to win. Charles ends up holding off Alonso, who was coming on pretty strong at the end of the race. He saved those tires pretty well to try to fight Charles at the end, but Charles ended up holding on to that podium. I thought Fernando was going to pass him. I thought Fernando was going to end up getting by him.
He had another half a lap. He would have, because he was. I thought
Fernando had baited him to sleep. Fernando is usually extremely good with taking care of his equipment until the very end of the race.
Yeah,
I thought that happened this week, and I thought he was going to be able to pass Charles at the end, but he didn't.
Yeah, he would have had a half a lap. It was happening because he on that at the checkered flag, he was right on his gearbox at the end of the race, man.
Yeah, he finished less than a second behind Charles.
Yeah, DRS wide open too. So he was. It was a good race between those two. I did enjoy that at the end, the little cat and mouse game they had going.
Yeah, and so then George pits from 8th because he's pretty much running by himself. He pits from 8th to get the fastest lap.
And he pits. It was that big of a gap where he didn't lose a position.
Yeah. You know why the gap was that big?
Shout out to the
gap was that big because of Ocon and Hulkenberg
holding
everybody up for 30 laps.
Shout out to the guys. Steal that 1 point from Max, because Max had it, I believe, at that point.
Yeah, and they pit George for softs at the very end, and he goes out there and sets the fastest lap.
What, 2 laps to go, I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 laps to lead at the end. So
he did what Ocon was supposed to do.
Yeah, true. So you had
you're going over the top 10. Our points finishers for the race ended up being Sergio, of course, took home first. Max comes home in second. Charles finishes out the podium in 3rd place. Then you have Fernando in 4th. Carlos finishes out the top 5. Then following up after Carlos, you have Lewis, who was right on Carlos at the end of that race.
Yeah.
So he could have got past Carlos as well. but I think Lewis was struggling with tires.
Yeah,
Then
he complained about that all day.
yeah,
Okay.
I think that kind of affected him being able to try to fight Carlos right there at the end. So he had Lance in 7th, George 8th, Lando finishing in 9th. That's 2 straight point finishes for Lando.
Check out McLaren.
And a good weekend for McLaren. They had Lando in 9th and Piastri finished in 11th. So he was 1 point outside of the points. So good weekend for McLaren after some bad ones.
But old Yuki got in there at 10th place, baby.
Hey,
so
Mr. Consistent this year.
That's two straight point finishes for Yuki and for Lando.
Yeah.
So
apparently
good points
McLaren
for
brought
those
some pretty big updates
Upgrades.
this week. Yeah.
I think they had a floor is one of the big issue they had this week. Well, the big upgrade was the floor. They had something new with it.
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they brought.
You're not plugged into McLaren, Lonnie?
No.
No.
Not too much.
No.
But I
Well,
know they had
I'm glad
upgrades.
that they're
I don't know what
back.
kind of upgrades they had.
Yeah, but it looks like they're going to be, one car, maybe 2 in the points the rest of the year. It sounds like 5th place, 6th place in the constructors is pretty much theirs. So
Should be because last year they were terrible.
right. Yeah.
Man,
But the year before, which is crazy because the year before last they were so good. But then
In 21, yeah.
they got the new car completely wrong, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, too much advertising dollars. They're getting the money and they figure out all kinds of ways to advertise, but they can't figure out how to make the car run.
Too much Google, man.
Too much chrome on the wheels.
It's all that Google.
Yeah, but these gaps, man, are pretty rough. From like first to 8th, so where Perez and George 74 seconds in between the two.
You got to take out the gaps you got to take out the first 2 gaps. And then you gotta erase the Carlos gap.
Yeah,
Because Carlos did with Ocon he did the Ocon and Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
He held everybody else up.
He still finished 5th. I mean, we're hating on him, but he still got some good points.
He was a distant 5th.
Yeah, it was like non-competitive 5th.
He was 23 seconds behind Fernando.
Oh God. Okay.
I mean, it's almost like he was racing by himself. It's like it was a quiet day for him. It was a ride in the park. He didn't. You didn't hear much about him after the pack had kind of split up a little bit. Those first 3 cars were out, and everybody else was on a stroll for the rest of the Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I think his pace is somewhat concerning though, because if you look back after the safety car, he started in front of Fernando.
Mm-hmm.
So in that time, between that time and the end of the race, he lost more than 23 seconds to Fernando. That's a big gap for coming from a safety car.
And I'm guessing Fernando benefited from DRS. So staying, getting close enough to pull away. And I guess he just didn't have the pace to keep up to stay within range.
Yeah, but DRS ain't gonna get you 23 seconds.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
It's a little. That's a big gap.
Yeah, I want to write this weekend off because of the short practice time, and maybe he talked to his engineers and whatever they decided was wrong, and then all weekend it looked bad. So hopefully it's just that.
For Ferrari's sake, you hope it's that.
Well, and I like Carlos enough. Like, I do want him to be more than just a number 2 to Charles, but maybe it's too late for that.
Yeah.
I think
hearing both of y'all go, yeah.
There's a clear-cut 1 and 2 at Ferrari. They don't say that. Ferrari doesn't like to say that they don't have a clear-cut 1 driver and a number 1 driver, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's not kid ourselves.
Well, especially after last year. Like, last year kind of solidified all that.
Yeah, they say that nothing is above the team at Ferrari, but
that was a Mattia thing, and now he's gone, so who knows?
It's always been a lie. Ferrari is the same team who told one of our drivers to let Michael pass him so he could win the race.
Sheesh.
And he did it.
If someone did that now, like when Red Bull tells Checo to let Max by to win the race,
we've seen it. We saw it last year. We saw it last year.
Did we see exactly that last year? That Perez was going to win a race?
They sacrificed Perez's race for Max.
Oh no, Ferrari came over the radio and said, let Michael pass.
Like we can't have that in 2023. That's really bad.
This wasn't a sacrifice to try to make it look like something happened. No, they got on and said, let Michael pass.
I mean, Bottas has done it for Lewis when they were there, and I'm sure he
fight Lewis.
Yeah, I'm sure he hated every second of it. But I mean, we see what Bottas is now. We see what Bottas is.
That's what everyone's saying this year is Perez is the new Nico, and he's going to retire after this season too.
I want that just for Max. I want him to get beat by his teammate, and then his teammate retires, so he can't beat him again.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't get the kick back.
Just to spite him.
Mm-hmm. God, wouldn't that be wonderful?
They say it would be wonderful.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Just that this season ends and Checo's the champion. Oh God.
Hey, if I got to root for anything Red Bull, he's the one.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing Lonnie's not going to be happy about next week. You're not a Miami fan?
I hate that track.
Can they make any adjustments from year 1 to year 2 to make us like them more?
It's just gonna be terrible again. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be a bad race again.
Mm-hmm.
But we know it's not about the racetrack when they come to Miami.
It's never about the racetrack whenever they go to any of these new places.
I'll tell you what. I'm excited for the grid walk for when Martin Brundle is walking down and interviewing people. Remember last year he interviewed Paolo Banchero and he thought it was Patrick Mahomes? I need that again. I need it so bad.
When Martin doesn't know who any of the people are.
He pushed past Dwayne Wade. He was like, "Excuse me, sir. I don't know who you are. I just need more of that."
Yeah.
I think it's so funny that like people like he talks to these people, he has no idea who they are. Like
I wonder if they're just in his ear telling him, "Oh no, get him in the gray." And he's like, "Who is it?"
And then it's good for the people who like don't know like who he is, but they're just there at the Formula One race just for like the look.
Yeah,
they have no idea. They have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, when Shaq was there, I think he was at Monaco.
They're just there for the look, and they're like, "Who is this guy?" Like interviewing. It's like, dude, it's like the biggest. Here. It's like the biggest interview in the like F1 world is happening right now.
And they're pushing him away, like, no.
No, so Miami, I'm very excited for that on Sunday. And of course, in Vegas, it's going to be great in November. But that's, for me, going to be the highlight this week with the track being so trash, the grid walk. And that's, for anyone who's curious, that's in the hour right before the race. So you have to watch the pregame for that one.
So the race is later, though, right? Like 3 or something like that?
Yeah.
That's the best part of this weekend.
Yeah, I think
thank God it's not 7 a.m.
Yeah, it's 3:30.
That's the best part of this weekend is the race being in the afternoon.
Yeah, my crazy ass was up at 6:45, and I was like, I guess I'm watching the race. So I did the 7 a.m. race.
Dude, I can't do the 7s, man.
I think I woke up around 7 and turned it on.
Yeah. So
we'll watch the recording. The
DVR.
All
right, driver of the day. Who was our driver of the day?
Definitely Perez for me.
Yeah, Checo for me too.
The way that he was able to hold off Max.
I mean, look at my background. If I can get out of the way, look at that guy, man. Yeah, definitely Checo for me.
Yeah, the way that he was able to hold off Max and keep him at arm's length, I think is a real testament of his driving. It's not that he's just in that seat because he's going to play second fiddle. So.
Yeah, he was just able to manage that gap for like the greater part of like almost 40 laps.
Yep. Same tires, You'd say
Same tire,
car,
same
yeah.
everything. No damaged car. Max had a fully functioning car.
Yep.
I mean, well, Perez is the tire whisperer, man. He's good with keeping those tires
Street
good
track.
on the street track.
He's a street track god.
Yeah. So we're hoping to see more of that next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess what do y'all want to call
the garbage truck driver?
I'm
today?
still sticking with garbage truck driver until we have a better one. Mike, do you have one? Do you have a garbage truck driver?
Man,
I got one.
I'm gonna give it to these people. They're like
okay, I accept.
Like
what the FIA again? For
FIA again.
Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they didn't get the memo that the race was still going. I guess they weren't keeping up with the race to find out that one car still had to pit to be able to be eligible to finish the race, and they were just out there, and it was mayhem. Like, as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking somebody's about to die because
head went crazy.
Yeah, because you don't see it on the TV. You just hear the announcers talking about all the photo people, all the photographers and videographers, and people are out in the pit lane. They're like, "Oh my God, he still has to pit," and I'm like, "Oh my God, he still has to pit."
They were so shook on the broadcast.
He lost his mind.
Yeah.
So with all that happening, it sounded brutal. I mean, that doesn't look good either when you have a car coming down pit lane. And what is it? What is the slowdown? Maybe it's going 60.
I was gonna ask, what is it?
I think it's different for every race, for different races, but it's normally around like 50, 60 miles per hour.
Okay, so that's the big thing. Is it kilometers or is it miles per hour? I don't know what the number is.
Yeah, so imagine seeing that car at 60 miles an hour coming at you, and it's your fault.
Yeah, and all those guys are surprised. The video of the onboard is them all jumping out of the way, which makes it even scarier.
Yeah. So yeah, that is the FIA 2 weeks in a row.
Wow, back to back.
Was a garbage truck driver of the day for me.
All right. Well, I have an answer. Mine's not great. Lonnie, do you want to go next?
I'm gonna give it to the guy who's driving the car. I'm gonna give it to Ocon.
Oh no!
I'm gonna give it to Ocon because I don't know how Ocon lets them, like how Ocon just goes along with this strategy that he has to know, dude, are y'all gonna pick me or what? Like,
I know I need to hear that.
You have to change compounds.
Those messages.
You got to have 2 compounds.
Yeah, it's like it's like, why isn't he bringing it up? It's like everybody else, the whole broadcast, the whole world is bringing it, talking about it. It's like, what is he going to pick? It's like, I know they're not going to wait until he starts lap 51, and then
that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's
but hey, you gamble and you lose, and Alpine really lost this weekend.
Yeah,
again,
but you lost that gamble. You lost that gamble like 5 laps before then.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no Nicholas Latifi out there to do anything weird. So
because people had passed you by that point too.
Yeah.
Latifi.
What's he doing these days?
I gotta give it to Ocon and Alpine for honestly.
He said Alpine as a team gets it.
Alpine as a unit should get it for whatever they were trying to do with Ocon.
They had a bad weekend overall, so I'm okay with that as a vote because of the whole Gasly problem on what was that? Was that qualifying that had the fire, or was that practice?
That was practice.
Oh, gee, yeah, you can't have a fire in practice. That can't work.
Honorable mention though, AlphaTauri.
They are so bad.
AlphaTauri.
They're so bad.
De Vries is a problem right now. I guess he's not good. Apparently,
De Vries stinks. He fooled us all.
At least Logan's not the worst rookie, right? At least there's De
Vries is a con man, and he fooled us all.
That Williams was nasty last year. All right,
what do you got, Joe?
My garbage truck driver of the day is the teammate of the guy who finished in third, and that guy also had pole in both races. I am all out on Carlos. Garbage truck driver of the day. You cannot let your teammate get 2 poles in one weekend and look that bad. So, Carlos.
I can understand. I think we're all kind of out. He's not going to be competitive.
The gap can't be that big with your teammate.
Mm-mm. You
Well,
can't
and the
be
car
beating
looks
Red
good.
Bulls on one side and then the other side it's Carlos.
Yeah, like it's the car. We know the car's good. We've seen like even their straight line speed is good. So it's not the car setup. Like he should be contending at least with his teammate, and it's not even close.
Mm-mm.
Not even close.
Well, I'm not optimistic about it, but I mean, whatever. I don't know what Carlos' contract situation looks like, but I'm pretty sure there's not a shortage of drivers out there who would like to jump into that Ferrari anyway.
Hey man, Lewis Hamilton is going to be up for you soon.
Well, I saw a report recently that apparently the rumor is Carlos is already signed with Audi in 2026. So then there's a Ferrari seat open for 2026 because Carlos is going to leave. So now we're getting real.
No way I got to root for Lewis Hamilton in a Ferrari.
That would
Well,
be so
Lewis said he
weird.
wanted to drive a Ferrari before his career ended anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if Red Bull keeps murdering everybody, we might as well shuffle everybody up and see if that helps.
Just shuffle everybody up. Make them switch cars. Make everybody switch cars for the
Put
next
Lando
sprint.
in an
That's
Aston.
what they should do.
Yeah.
That's what they should do for the next sprint. Just make everybody switch cars.
That's the rule, right? You don't put the pole sitter in 10th. You just put him in the worst car.
Yeah, just everybody switch cars. You just leave them. You just draw cars out of a hat. You can't have your own car. And you just
About
race
that
for a
seat.
sprint.
What if Yuki and George get swapped? George is like 6'5" and Yuki's 4'10". That would go poorly.
Putting Yuki in that Red Bull is not safe for anyone. It's not safe for the marshals at the track.
Nope. His engineers wouldn't be happy hearing that F-bomb that much. Yeah.
A lot of screaming.
Yuki just screaming. Oh man.
Well, yeah.
Right, well,
we got Miami next week.
Yep.
we got Miami next week. So prepare for another snooze fest. I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Well, no sprint race,
Hopefully
so
there'll
normal
be-
practice.
Yeah, we'll go back to the normal format for the Miami GP. What do they call it? Do they call it the Miami GP?
I think it's like the crypto something.
Oh,
Of
the
course it's
sponsors.
crypto.
Oh, the sponsors.
Oh,
I think it's still
Of course it's
Miami though.
It's a scam. It's a
Miami
scam
GP.
race.
Okay, they still have Miami in there, but yeah, with the sponsor on there as well.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, we can go ahead. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up. Until next time, where we talk about the Miami Grand Prix. Hopefully, we'll have some drama to discuss next week.
More Perez, baby. More Perez next week.
And good luck to Checo and nobody
Yes,
else.
sir. That's my man. I'm full Checo now. But all right.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll talk to y'all next time. Out.
Peace.